mission here on earth is to be free, is to be sovereign, is to be ourselves.
Okay, we got to talk about this word sovereignty. It has been embraced by a lot of New Agers, especially conspiritualists, but unfortunately it has deep ties to white supremacy and anti-Semitism. If you don't know what conspirituality is, you can take a look at a video I made a couple of weeks ago. But for now, let's just say it's this convergence of far-right politics and conspiracy thinking with ostensibly left-leaning New Age optimism. A conspiritualist is the kind of person who is into holistic healing but rejects Western medicine, not very holistic, and who might say something like Trump is a light worker. Yeah, that's a real thing. Now, in terms of the creator from the beginning of this video, I have no idea how she is using the word sovereign. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that she's doing so innocently as meaning something like my body, my choice, but it behooves us all to get into the dark side of it. The terms sovereign and sovereignty entered the New Age lexicon in 2020 during the pandemic when members of the New Age were going out and protesting masks and lockdowns and things, and they were mingling with members of the far right, militia groups and others who were anti-government groups. Now, some of these protesters were indeed members of the sovereign citizens movement, which can be traced back to the 1960s and the formation of a group called Posse Comitatus. Members of Posse Comitatus believe that white Aryans are the true descendants of the ancient Israelites, the God's chosen people, and that Jews and non-whites are actually the progeny of the second seed of the serpent hybrid Cain. The main founder of Posse Comitatus was a guy named William Potter Gale, who was also involved in other white supremacist groups like Aryan Nation, the Christian Defense League, and the Sovereign Citizens Movement. Now, the Sovereign Citizens Movement has lots of variations, but the underlying theme is based on a conspiracy theory that the U.S. government is illegitimate. It has no actual authority because it's actually a corporation. These people believe that the so-called common law of the Founding Fathers was at some point replaced by something called admiral law, which is the law of international commerce, so it's all code word for basically Jewish bankers. Now, depending on who you ask, this nefarious switchover apparently happened either during the Civil War or in the early 20th century when the U.S. went off the gold standard, which actually happened in 1971. So a sovereign citizen is somebody who claims to be exempt from having to follow laws or pay taxes. So these people ignore laws and taxes and registration fees and parking tickets and things, and they routinely engage in something called paper terrorism, where they file extensive court documents full of pseudo-legal nonsense that's meant to clog up the courts. One famous group who subscribes to this ideology is FLDS, fundamentalist Mormons who believe that they can practice polygamy, and famous individuals include Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bombers, as well as Clive and Eamon Bundy, who occupied the Malheur Wildlife Refuge in 2016 because they didn't want to pay their grazing fees. In sum, any New Agers using this term sovereignty, whatever their intentions, are intimately connected to white supremacy and anti-Semitism.